Do you have that one friend who seems to know an insufferable amount about a lot of random subjects? The person who chimes in with the odd and sometimes highly disturbing fun fact. Well, my name is Carly, and I am that friend. I often find myself wondering about topics that range from the history of certain holidays to what makes some wines expensive and some a little on the cheaper side. So I make use of that mini supercomputer I carry everywhere and just look it up. Lately, I have decided to share the random knowledge that I acquire with all of you lovely listeners. So welcome to I'm Already Looking It Up. Let's have a drink and learn a thing or two. Hello. You're listening to I'm Already Looking It Up, the podcast where I, your host, research a random topic and tell you, my lovely listeners, all about it. So without further ado, let's get started. So this episode has a topic idea, at least, has been on my list since I started thinking of the podcast and what I wanted to do and how I wanted to go about it. And honestly, I had no idea what to do with this topic. I just really love it, and I wanted to talk about it, and so that's, what we're going to do. Today, we're going to be talking about Tomb Raider, mostly the video games. I will also kind of cover the movies a little bit, not a lot, but mostly going to be talking about the Tomb Raider video games. I just really love Tomb Raider. It's one of my favorite games. It holds the specialist of places in my heart when it comes to video games. When I was a kid, I used to stay up late and watch my mom play Tomb Raider. I think the first one on PS1 and PS2. Sometimes I would sit and we would work on solving puzzles together, and I put, solving them together in high quotation marks. She was probably helping me solve them and was humoring me a little bit, but that's okay, because that's what parents do. I started playing them myself when I was a little older, and I was absolutely in love. I loved if you know anything about me, I suck at platform games. Absolutely am the worst. I will have to do it 1,000,000 times over. But Tomb Raider, it's kind of the one exception in my mind. I love these games, guys. So much. And I've played at least a little bit of every single one of them. Can't say I've finished them all. Honestly, I should. I've kind of been thinking about on my YouTube channel doing that, because I think it would be fun. But yeah, so started playing them as I was older, and as an adult, I had always, or as a kid and now as an adult, I'd always been enthralled with the ancient world, mythology in particular. So of course, a video game about a badass female archaeologist going around the world exploring these ancient structures and finding all their secrets definitely appealed to me. I was so obsessed with these games, I even tried to dress like Lara. Long braid, boots, long socks, shorts, and tank top. On as much as I could. I honestly, if I could wear shorts, I was dressing like Lara, if I could. So I would go to my mom and be like, "Can you braid my hair?" I haven't tried to do the outfit in quite some time, but you know what it is. So since this is my podcast, I can do whatever I want with it. I'm going to be talking about Tomb Raider. So here we go. The very first Tomb Raider game, simply entitled Tomb Raider, began development in 1994 by Core Design and was published 2 years later by Eidos Interactive on October 25th, 1996, just 2 days before my first birthday. It's fate. I meant to love these games. Due to the game's critical and commercial success, Core Design continued to develop games for the franchise up until 2006, The last game that Core Design developed, Tomb Raider Angel of Darkness, was actually seen as a massive failure upon its release. Personally, I have played Angel of Darkness and also seen my mom play it, and I honestly don't think it's that bad of a game, but I guess if I were to go back and play it now, it might not be as good. I don't know. I will have to maybe think about doing a Tomb Raider series on my YouTube channel, or doing it on Twitch, because that would be fun, and especially with the remakes that having just come out this year. Maybe that'll be interesting. I'll have to come up with some ideas for you guys. So yeah, I didn't think Angel of Darkness was all that bad. I thought it was interesting. Maybe as an adult, I won't like it as much as someone who's a little more versed in the world of video games now. But you know what? A Tomb Raider game is a Tomb Raider. You give me Lara, you give me guns, you give me cool ancient mythology. Like, I'm set. Let's go. I actually had a huge debate with myself with the trilogy coming out, the remake trilogy, because there was a website that was releasing this big Legendary Edition version of it, and it was going to come with the 3 games and a bunch of cool stuff, but it was also going to come with the Lara's pistols. If you don't know anything about Tomb Raider, Lara Croft she uses dual-wielding pistols as her main form of combat, and they're badass. She doesn't anymore in the newer series, but in the original series, yeah, she did that, and it was great, and we loved her for it. So, after Tomb Raider Angel of Darkness was released, there was a 3-year gap. And PlayStation 2 after a 3-year gap, I'm sorry. Tomb Raider Angel of Darkness was released on Microsoft Windows and PlayStation 2 in 2003. The PlayStation 2 version was released in Japan the same year. The next entry, Tomb Raider Legend, which I have played to completion with my brother. We went and hunted around all the special things you can get to unlock everything. Did the mansion, because the Tomb Raider games always had a mansion that you got to explore, and there was sometimes like a little mystery thing that you could do. Anyway, so Tomb Raider Legend was released worldwide in 2006 for Microsoft Windows, PlayStation 2, Xbox 360, PlayStation Portable, GameCube, Game Boy Advance, and Nintendo DS. I would love to have a physical copy of this game. Honestly, all the Tomb Raider games. Not gonna lie. The Xbox 360, PlayStation 2, and PlayStation Portable versions were released in Japan the same year. A year later, a remake of the first game, titled Tomb Raider Anniversary, was released worldwide in 2007 for Microsoft Windows, PlayStation 2, PlayStation Portable, Xbox 360, and the Wii, and the next entry, Tomb Raider Underworld, was released in 2008 on Microsoft Windows, PlayStation 3, PlayStation 2, Xbox 360, Wii, and DS. The PlayStation 3, PlayStation 2, Xbox 360, and Wii versions were released in Japan in 2009. In 2011, we had the Tomb Raider trilogy that was released for PlayStation 3 as a completion release that included Anniversary and Legend remastered in HD resolution, along with the PlayStation 3 version of Underworld. The disc includes avatars for PlayStation Home, a theme pack, new trophies, developer diary videos for the 3 games, and trailers for Lara Croft and the Guardian of Light as bonus content. So there you go. That is all part, I think Legend and Underworld are kind of their own thing, but the first, as far as I understand it, the first set of games that were all done by Core Design are a set of games that I don't know that they follow the same timeline, but it's the same Lara Croft, the same people you would normally work with, and then Legend and Underworld were kind of their own things. And then you had Anniversary, which was obviously a remake of the first one. So there you go. Let's see. And then they rebooted it, which I'll I'll talk about this in a second. But a reboot of the series titled simply Tomb Raider was released worldwide in 2013 for Microsoft Windows, PlayStation 3, and Xbox 360. Its sequel, Rise of the Tomb Raider, was released in 2015 on the Xbox 360 and Xbox One. The game was part of a timed exclusivity deal with Microsoft. Versions for the PlayStation 4 and Microsoft Windows were released in 2016. Another sequel, Shadow of the Tomb Raider, one of the best Tomb Raider games I've ever played, by the way. It's so good. Was released worldwide on PlayStation 4, Xbox One, and Microsoft Windows in 2018. Pre-ordered this game. I used to have the steel case for it. I don't anymore, unfortunately. I was so excited when they announced it, and when it came out, I loved it. An arcade game based on this incarnation was released by Bandai Namco Amusement in Europe in 2018, sorry. So there have been a couple of Game Boy spin-offs, but first, so Tomb Raider, the reboot, the new series that most people today know. I was so against playing this. I was upset. I saw what Lara looked like. I saw that she didn't have her braid. She wasn't using her pistols. I was like, what is this bullshit? This is not Lara Croft. Give me Lara Croft. But my husband and boyfriend at the time was like, just, give it a shot, see if you like it. And I tried it out, and I was like, okay, you know what? This is pretty great. It's very different from the original Tomb Raiders, because in the original Tomb Raiders, it was kind of the classic action-adventure game style. You could go through each level, and you would, there was a level selector and all that stuff and everything. And then Tomb Raider, the new series, is very different in that it's kind of open world. You can go off and explore other things. You can, and it's not like huge open world like Grand Theft Auto or Skyrim or anything like that, but there are some side quests and some other little things you can do. So that was kind of cool. I was like, alright, this is like taking my favorite action character and putting her in an open world, and I'm okay with that. So it ended up being good, but I was really against it at first. So then next, we'll talk about, there was a couple of Game Boy spin-offs. Core Design developed two Game Boy Color titles in the early 2000s. The first, a side-scrolling game simply titled Tomb Raider, was released in 2000. The second, its sequel, Tomb Raider Curse of the Sword, was released in 2001. A Game Boy Advance title called Tomb Raider The Prophecy was released in 2002. Unlike the first two Game Boy titles, this was developed by Ubisoft Milan and published by Ubisoft, adopting an isometric perspective and moving away from side-scrolling platform-based gameplay. So this is interesting because these are the ones, I've never played any of the handheld ones. I played all of the ones that are on console. I actually own on my Steam, let's see, I'm pretty sure I own all of the ones I know. I might even own some of these next ones that they have brought up. Let's see. But, yeah, I've never played those ones. So I might have to try those out on, like, an emulator or something, see how I feel about them. I've heard they're not that great, but, something to experience. So the Lara Croft subseries from 2010 to 2015, a sub-series simply titled Lara Croft was developed at Crystal Dynamics with different gameplay than the main series and existing in its own continuity. The first game, Lara Croft The Guardian of Light, was released in 2010 as a downloadable title for PC, PS3, and Xbox 360. It was followed by Lara Croft and the Temple of Osiris, released for retail and download in 2014 for PC, PS4, and Xbox One. Both titles were released in a compilation entitled The Lara Croft Collection for Nintendo Switch in 2023. An entry for mobile devices, an endless runner platformer titled Lara Croft Relic Run was released in 2015. Square Enix Montreal also released a platform puzzler for mobile devices, Lara Croft Go in 2015. I wonder if these still exist. I've never tried any of these either. I know the Temple of Osiris Guardian of Light ones still do. I might actually already own those, but I want to check the App Store for these two ones. Let's see. Lara Croft Go and Lara Croft Relic Run both come up. Alright, Lara Croft Go is $4.99. And it's puzzles, it looks like. Yeah. Okay. I might have to download this and give it a shot at some point. I don't know that. Can I have it on a wish list? Gift this app? No. No, okay, well, Apple, you need a wish list. But I need to remember that. I'll have to write it down somewhere. And then Relic Run is free. And it looks like, kind of like Temple Run, which is very tempting for me because I used to be obsessed with Temple Run. So, you know what? We're going to download that one because it's free. I'm going to give that one a shot later on. I might get addicted to it. Who knows? But yeah, they do have... Oh, and Tomb Raider Reloaded. That's interesting. Clear the tombs or die trying. Is that going to be being brought up on here? Yes, it is, actually. Other spin-offs. In 2003, Tomb Raider titles for mobile phones were released, developed by Emerald City Games for iOS and Android devices. Tomb Raider Reloaded is an action, arcade, and free-to-play game release by CD Entertainment in 2022. So that's the newest one, actually, it looks like. And that one's also free. And you know what? I'm going to download that one, too, and give it a shot. Been looking for mobile games to try out, so why the heck not? It sounds fun. Alright, so it looks like there's some other similar games for other franchises. Alright, so we got those two going. I'll give them a shot later. So, canceled games is our next one. Mom, I tried to call you back earlier. I'll call you back later. Other spin-off or canceled games. After the release of Angel of Darkness in 2003, Core Design continued working on the franchise for another 3 years, but both of the projects under development in that period were canceled. A sequel titled The Lost Dominion was undergoing preliminary development that year, but negative reception to the Angel of Darkness caused it and a wider trilogy to be scrapped, with Eidos' approval. Core Design then began development of an updated edition of the first game for PSP called Tomb Raider 10th Anniversary in late 2005, with a projected release date of Christmas 2006. Development continued while other Core Design staff were working on the platformer. Free running, when Core Design was sold to Rebellion Developments in 2006, Eidos requested the project's cancellation. It was suggested that by staff that Eidos did not want to let outside developers handle the franchise. An Indiana Jones reskin of the game was never completed, and free running was ultimately the studio's final title in 2007. Core Design, by then renamed Rebellion Derby, shut down in 2010. A January 2006 build of 10th Anniversary was leaked online in 2020 and remains available on the Internet Archive. So there you go. That is all the games that have ever been made for Tomb Raider. Yeah, it's a huge franchise, really. And there's movies, and there's comics, and there's so much. I really should look up the comics and see which came first. I'm pretty sure I've done this before, and I think the comics came first, but I'm not 100% sure, so don't quote me on that. I actually do have some of the comics framed as part of my little Tomb Raider shrine. Alright, so what are some common elements of the game? Lara Croft, As we have mentioned before, she is the main protagonist and playable character of the video game series. She travels around the world in search of many forgotten artifacts and locations frequently connected to supernatural powers. While her biography has changed throughout the series, her shared traits are her origins as the only daughter and heir of the aristocratic Croft family. She is portrayed as intelligent, athletic, elegant, fluent in multiple languages, and determined to fulfill her own goals at any cost. She has brown eyes and brown hair, worn in a braid or ponytail. The character's classic outfit consists of a turquoise singlet, light brown shorts, calf-high boots, and tall white socks. Recurring accessories include fingerless gloves, a backpack, a utility belt with holsters on either side, and twin pistols. Later games have multiple new outfits for her. So there you go. She's a badass. We love her. She's so great. Alright. Lara Croft has been voiced by 5 actresses in the video game series: Shelley Blond, Judith Gibbons, and Jonelle Elliott, Keely Hawes, and Camilla Luddington. In other media, Croft was also voiced by Minnie Driver in the animated series and portrayed by Angelina Jolie and Alicia Vikander in feature films. I think Alicia Vikander is the new trilogy films. Well, the first one. I don't think they... Maybe there's a second... I don't know. Multiple models and body doubles have portrayed Croft in promotional material until the reboot in 2013. 8 different real-life models have portrayed her at promotional events. In January 2023, The Hollywood Reporter reported that Phoebe Waller-Bridge was set to write a TV show adaptation of the video game franchise for Amazon. It was also reported that it would involve a tie-in video game and film in an interconnected universe likened to the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So, get excited for that. I knew that there was going to be a TV show, which I'm actually going to look now to see if there is a set release. Now, my only thing is that Haley Atwell is going to be voicing Lara, which is a voice actress I do not love for my own reasons. She's a wonderful actress, a phenomenal voice actress. I think she did really well. But, really well in the What If series. But for certain reasons, I don't enjoy her as a person. But otherwise, I think she'll do a good job. I really think that's a good pick. But, sometimes you just gotta separate the art from the artist. Okay, so Lara Croft... TV show? TV series. So, let's see. Yep, Tomb Raider, The Legend of Lara Croft is what it's going to be called. It says TV series 2024. From the incredibly gifted Emmy Award winner Phoebe Waller-Bridge. Okay. Release? Is there a release? I actually have not seen the trailer. Should probably watch that. There's a first look. Is it out? It might be out. Coming October 10th. Perfect. Beautiful. Love it. I totally am going to sit down and watch that when it comes out. So, there you go. October 10th, if you're a Tomb Raider fan. Watch the Tomb Raider Legend of Lara Croft. And they said there's supposed to be a video game that's coming with it. Let's see. Tomb Raider The Legend of Lara Croft, upcoming American animated action adventure television series. I don't see anything about the game. But next video game based series, Relic Run on the App Store. Yeah, I'm not seeing anything about the game, but maybe we'll know more when the show gets closer or when it comes out. Who knows? But yeah, that's pretty cool. It's one of those series. It's an enduring series. I like I said, when I was a kid, and it's still one of my favorites. Every time I play a Tomb Raider game, I feel a little good about the world, honestly. And I don't really play them that often as an adult anymore. I played them a lot in college, but otherwise, yeah, I don't really engage in them as much as I used to. Maybe I should. Alright, so continuity, can't talk, it's fine. Continuity. The circumstances of her first adventures, along with the drive behind her adventures, differ depending on the continuity. In the original continuities, she is on a plane that crashes in the Himalayas. Her journey back to civilization against the odds helped to begin her journey towards her adult life as an adventurous and treasure hunter. In the original continuity, after her ordeal in the Himalayas, she left behind her privileged life, made a living writing about her exploits as an adventurer, mercenary, and cat burglar. Shortly after these books, she was disowned by her family. In The Last Revelation, Lara was caught in a collapsing pyramid at the game's end, leaving her fate unknown. This was because the staff, exhausted from 4 years of nonstop development, wanted to move on from the character. Chronicles was told through a series of flashbacks at a wake for Lara, while the Angel of Darkness was set an unspecified time after The Last Revelation, with Lara revealed to have survived. The circumstances of her survival were originally part of the game, but were cut due to time constraints and the pushing of the publisher Eidos. In the Legend continuity, her mother Amelia was involved in the crash, and she is partially driven by the need to discover the truth behind her mother's disappearance and vindicate her father's theories about Amelia's disappearance. The obsession with the truth is present in Anniversary and ends up bringing the world to the brink of destruction during the events of Underworld. Her father is referred to as Lord Henshingly Croft in the original games and Lord Richard Croft in the Legend continuity. The Lara Croft sub-series takes place within their own separate continuity, devoting itself to adventures similar to earlier games, while the main series goes in a different stylistic direction. In 2013 reboot continuity, Lara's mother vanished at an early age, and her father became obsessed with finding the secrets of immortality, eventually resulting in an apparent suicide. Lara distanced herself from her father's memory, believing, like many others, that his obsession had caused him to go mad. After studying at university, Lara gets an opportunity to work on an archaeology program in the search for the mythic kingdom of Yamatai. The voyage to find the kingdom results in a shipwreck on an island, which is later discovered to be Yamatai, but the island is also home to savage bandits who were victims of previous wrecks. Lara's attempts to find a way off the island lead her to discover that the island itself is stopping them from leaving, which she discovers is linked to the still living soul of the Sun Queen, Himiko. Lara tries to find a way to banish the spirit of the Sun Queen in order to get home. The aftermath of the events of the game cause Lara to see that her father was right and that she had needlessly distanced herself from him. She decides to finish his work and uncover mysteries of the world. The game's sequels portray Lara Croft in conflict with an ancient organization, Trinity, in their quest to obtain supernatural items for their world domination. It's always, I think in the movies, I think it's also Trinity? I can't remember. Been a while since I watched those. I should watch them again. Alright, the gameplay of Tomb Raider is primarily based around an action-adventure framework, with Lara navigating environments and solving mechanical and environmental puzzles, in addition to fighting enemies and avoiding traps. These puzzles, primarily set within ancient tombs and temples, can extend across multiple rooms and areas within a level. Lara can swim through water, a rarity in games at the time that had continued through the series. According to original software engineer, the later studio manager Gavin Rumery, the original setup of interlinking rooms was inspired by Egyptian multi-room tombs, particularly the tomb of Tutankhamun. The feel of the gameplay was intended to evoke that of a 1918 video game, Prince of Persia. In the original games, Lara utilized a bulldozer steering setup with 2 buttons pushing her forward and back and 2 buttons steering her left and right. And in combat, Lara automatically locked onto enemies when they came within range. The camera automatically adjusts depending on Lara's actions, but defaults to a third-person perspective in most instances. This basic formula remained unchanged through the first series of the games. Angel of Darkness added stealth elements. There you go. So for Legend, the control scheme and character movement was redesigned to provide a smooth and fluid experience. One of the key elements present was how buttons for different actions cleanly transitioned into different actions, along with these moves being incorporated into combat to create effects such as stunning or knocking down enemies. Quick time events were added into certain segments within each level, and many of the puzzles were based around sophisticated in-game physics. Anniversary, while going through the same locales of the original game, was rebuilt using gameplay and environmental puzzles of Legend. For Underworld, the gameplay was redesigned around a phrase the staff had put them... For Underworld, the gameplay was redesigned around a phrase the staff had put to themselves: what could Lara do? Using this setup, they created a greater variety of moves and greater interaction with the environment, along with expanding and improving combat. So there you go. Great. Coffee break. Okay. When I played these games, honestly, all the styles of gameplay are great. Legend is probably my favorite. Mostly because in Legend and Anniversary and Underworld, you had the fun freedom of doing all these, acrobatic moves. And I was kind of obsessed with that. I don't know why. I thought it was, the coolest thing that you could just, do a handstand and flip over onto the whatever ledge you were climbing onto. Or, when you would visit the manor, and I don't remember in which game this is, but you would visit the manor and you could jump on, they had, and you could do this on poles in the other game, the rest of the game, but they had a whole gym where you could, jump on stuff and do fun little acrobatic. I was obsessed with doing this. I loved it. I also loved the swimming. I remember trying to learn how to do that perfect Lara dive in the, I think it's the second mission in Legend, where you go to Ghana and you jump off a waterfall into this big cavernous lake below. And yeah, you could do a perfect swan dive if you could figure it out, and it was beautiful, and I loved it. It was just gorgeous. Just a gorgeous set of games. The gameplay underwent another major change in the 2013 reboot. Gameplay altered from progression through linear levels to navigating an open world, like I mentioned earlier, with hunting for supplies and upgrading equipment and weapons becoming a key part of gameplay, yet tombs were mostly optional and platforming was less present in comparison to combat. The combat was redesigned to be similar to the Uncharted series, which is a series I've also never played but been told I would like. The previous rectangle-based lock-on mechanics were replaced by a free-roaming aim, which I don't love. Rise of the Tomb Raider built on the 2013 reboot's foundation, adding dynamic weather systems, reintroducing swimming, and increasing the prevalence of non-optional tombs with more platforming elements. So there you go. So yeah, that's kind of mostly it. A lot of this is talking about the history and how it was made, and that might be something I go into later. There is a section about the music, which I might talk about later in another episode. But I do love the music for Tomb Raider. It's beautiful, and honestly, in all the games, I think they're great. It's amazing. Definitely keeps your energy up when you're playing. Let's see, they talk about technology, cultural impact. Let's see. Okay, so that's kind of it in the Wikipedia article. They talk about the reception. So, Yeah, I think for this episode, I might come back to go a little deeper. I do want to do a future episode kind of on the games themselves and what the stories were in terms of, like, what mythology did they follow, and what was the supernatural element that they were trying to portray, and why depict something in this way. I remember... a little preview of that is that I remember in Legend, you, at the end of it, got a weapon that was meant to be Excalibur, but it wasn't just Excalibur. It was also this very, powerful weapon in a lot of mythological stories. And if you're paying attention to the storyline, you can hear Lara talk about how, oh yes, there are all these mythologies that have these very similar stories, and you see that a lot, and the one that she brings up the most is that in most mythologies there is a great flood that wipes out humanity, and I remember that moment because it clicked something hardcore in my brain. And I think I've mentioned this before in maybe the comparative mythologies episode or just in any mythology episode. But I do remember playing that because it was in the Ghana level, and you were walking around this tomb, and she's talking to the guy. I think it's Bryce in the movies, but I don't remember what. He's the tech guy. And she points that out. And it clicked something in my brain. It gave me this feeling of, I never really thought about that before. Because I wasn't necessarily raised religious. My mom wanted us to go to church and all that and believe in God and everything. But she also, both my parents were also very, find your own way. Believe what you want to believe, kind of deal, which sounds so flippant, but you know what I mean. We weren't raised in any certain religion or anything. When we were really young, we were made to go to church, but then as we got older, we were allowed to kind of choose. So I always thought, I never really thought of something like the Bible. This is the first time in my life that I had ever considered the Bible to be mythology, right? Because if you grow up in, especially the Midwest and in Kansas, you're kind of, taught to believe that everything in the Bible is completely real and written, or as it is written. And I'm not saying people who believe that are wrong. I'm not saying those things couldn't have happened. It's the same. You also have to remember that in Greek mythology, that was a religion that people believed happened the way it was told much of the time. But that was the first time in my life I had ever thought the Bible is a type of mythology. It is a collection of stories meant to teach the people who follow this religion about the morals and the ethics and the reason for what we do and why we do it, and why do we consider this a law and why not this, and everything like that. So Legend, I think it's one of my favorite games in the Tomb Raider franchise because it was the game made for my generation. It was the Tomb Raider game for kids like me. And then, and I already had that prominent, before then, I had played the games with my mom, and so I already knew Lara Croft was a big fan of the movies, and I was a fan of the first movie, and the second movie, Cradle of Light, was okay. But, I was so enthralled by this thought that, oh my god, there are these mythologies that have this same vibe, They have the same kind of ideas, and not all mythologies, none of the mythologies match up completely word for word, but it's just, and I've talked about this before, I've gone on rants about this before so many times, but it is the thing. I honestly probably should have gone into studying comparative mythology, but I find it so fascinating to take a look at all of these mythologies, all of these stories and these ideas, and see that in other cultures around the world, nowhere near any of these other places, not even in the same time frame of these other places, had, similar thoughts, whether it was because they shared things over time or maybe discovered, like us, we're just, still discovering, ancient artifacts and buildings and all that stuff. So, maybe they discovered it and saw what their interpretation of things were and fit it into their own stories and everything. So it's such a fascinating look into people, I think, into how we interpret the world and how that changes over time, but also how some things kind of stay the same and how those things go across cultures. And it just, again, I've said this before, but it makes me love humanity because we're not so different from each other. And I think that's a lovely thought. I think that is a nice thing to consider when thinking about history. So, on that note, I'll probably leave it there, but Tomb Raider, that's what I wanted to talk about today. Like I said, had this topic on my list from the very beginning because it was kind of one of the ideas for this podcast was to talk about these games in particular and discuss what mythologies they portray and what they're about and where they come from and all that. So, and also kind of talk about how the game portrays it versus what the most accurate version of it is, which is hard because mythology is most of the time in history orally recorded, not written down at first. And as we mostly know, when you tell a story over and over again, things change when it goes from person to person. So some people focus on different things and all that. So yeah. But I think that's where we're going to leave it for today. Thank you for taking the time to listen. And if you enjoyed the show, please subscribe, follow, share. Really helps me out quite a lot. If you'd like to support the show at all, you can head over to patreon.com/wildforestproductions. I always put the link in the show notes so you can go check it out there. I do have a full-time job. I am not necessarily hurting for money, but if you wanted to support the show for $1 a month, I'd super appreciate it. And if you want, I can give you a shout out in the credits of the next episode after I see your support. So that would be cool. And if you want to check me out anywhere else, usually I'm Empress Wild on Instagram and Twitter. I also have a couple of Facebook pages, Empress Crafts and Designs, which is where I post most of my Etsy stuff. You can also check out my Etsy stuff on Empress Small Crafts. I know I have so many names. I also have a page for Wild Forest Productions on Facebook, and a Tumblr for Wild Forest Productions, and an Instagram for Wild Forest Productions. So you can go check all that out. That is where I'm going to try to remember to post these podcasts as well as where they are uploaded. You can also find this podcast wherever you listen to podcasts for the most part. If you happen to be a listener on Apple Podcasts and you are enjoying the show, please give me a little rating and a little review, and maybe I'll read it on the show at the end. So we'll see. But yeah, otherwise, thank you guys for hanging out, and I will see you next time. Thank you for listening to I'm Already Looking It Up. If you're enjoying the podcast, please like and subscribe. If you'd like to support the show, you can go to my Patreon at patreon.com/wildforestproductions. Don't forget to check out all the social links below. Thank you!